Honor and profit do not always lie in the same sack. George Herbert. The government of oneself is the only true freedom for the individual. Frederick Perthes. It is in length of patience and endurance and forbearance that so much of what is good in mankind and womankind is shown. Arthur Phelps. Self-control is only courage under another form. It may almost be regarded as the primary essence of character. It is in virtue of this quality that Shakespeare defines man as being looking before and after. It forms the chief distinction between man and the mere animal, and indeed, there can be no true manhood without it. Self-control is at the root of all the virtues. Let a man give the reins to his impulses and passions, and from that moment he yields up his moral freedom. He is carried along the current of life and becomes the slave of his strongest desire for the time being. To be morally free, to be more than an animal, man must be able to resist instinctive impulse, and this can only be done by the exercise of self-control. Thus, it is this power which constitutes the real distinction between a physical and a moral life, and that forms the primary basis of individual character. In the Bible, praise is given not to the strong man who taketh a city, but to the stronger man who ruleth his own spirit. This stronger man is he who, by discipline, exercises a constant control over his thoughts, his speech, and his acts. 9/10 of the vicious desires that degrade society, and which, when indulged, swell into the crimes that disgrace it, would shrink into insignificance before the advance of valiant self-discipline, self-respect, and self-control. By the watchful exercise of these virtues, purity of heart and mind become habitual, and the character is built up in chastity, virtue, and temperance. The best support of character will always be found in habit, which, according as the will is directed rightly or wrongly, as the case may be, will prove either a benignant ruler or a cruel despot. We may be its willing subject on the one hand, or its servile slave on the other. It may help us on the road to good, or it may hurry us on the road to ruin. Habit is formed by careful training, and it is astonishing how much can be accomplished by systematic discipline and drill. See how, for instance, out of the most unpromising materials, such as roughs picked up in the streets or raw, unkempt country lads taken from the plow, steady discipline and drill will bring out the unsuspected qualities of courage, endurance, and self-sacrifice, and how, in the field of battle, or even on the more trying occasions of perils by sea, such as the burning of the Sarah Sands or the wreck of the Birkenhead, such men, carefully disciplined, will exhibit the unmistakable characteristics of true bravery and heroism. Nor is moral discipline and drill less influential in the formation of character. Without it, there will be no proper system and order in the regulation of the life. Upon it depends the cultivation of the sense of self-respect, the education of the habit of obedience, the development of the idea of duty. The most self-reliant, self-governing man is always under discipline, and the more perfect the discipline, the higher will be his moral condition. He has to drill his desires and keep them in subjection to the higher powers of his nature. They must obey the word of command of the internal monitor, the conscience. Otherwise they will be but the mere slaves of their inclinations, the sport of feeling and impulse. In the supremacy of self-control, says Herbert Spencer, consists one of the perfections of the ideal man, not to be impulsive, not to be spurred hither and thither by each desire that in turn comes uppermost, but to be self-restrained, self-balanced, governed by the joint decision of the feelings and counsel assembled, before whom every action shall have been fully debated and calmly determined. That it is which education, moral education at least, strives to produce. The first seminary of moral discipline, and the best, as we have already shown, is the home. Next comes the school, and after that the world, the great school of practical life. Each is preparatory to the other, and what the man or woman becomes depends for the most part upon what has gone before. If they have enjoyed the advantage of neither the home nor the school, but have been allowed to grow up untrained, untaught, and undisciplined, then woe to themselves, woe to the society of which they form part. The best regulated home is always that in which the discipline is the most perfect, and yet where it is the least felt. Moral discipline acts with the force of a law of nature. Those subject to it yield themselves to it unconsciously, and though it shapes and forms the whole character, until the life becomes crystallized in habit, the influence thus exercised is for the most part unseen and almost unfelt.